All right, welcome betters. Let's jump right into the next step of the data literacy series. We're going to get into the data. So, as always, we are going to go ahead and open our Jupyter notebook. So I'm just going to hop in to that. All right. So again, we got these two guys in here. We got our football data that if you don't have, it's available on the website. Just go to the data page, and we're going to open up our source from last time. Interestingly enough, another thing to think about is that when you open the page new, you have to run everything in sequence, right? So if I just hit this, I'm going to get an error because DF hasn't been loaded. And then even if I do this, I should get an error because pandas hasn't been loaded. So I kind of have to go in this order. So I have to go pandas, DF, and then kind of put it out. And feel free to play around with what happens where. Like, for example, if I wanted to move this, right, like I could do that as well. It's not an issue. But for now, we won't do that. We'll just keep it normal. And a good way to keep it all sequential is if you just do cell, run all, and it'll run all in order. And these numbers on the side, they just mean exactly at what step, or I guess place you run it in. So like if I run this, right, I've run these things all. This was the 7th thing run, 8th thing run, 9th thing run. If I run this again, it'll go to 10. If I run this next, it'll go to 11, and then 12, right, blah, blah, blah. So let's get into just two main things. So we're going to talk about what is a string and what that actually means. Basically, don't worry too much about this command right now. But essentially what I'm saying is look at the DF, look at the data frame, look at the column named team name, and then grab the 0th index, right? So it's going to print out the team name, 0th index, Arizona Cardinals. And this is a string. Anything in quotes is a string. So another example would be if I write, hello. That's a string. And again, don't worry about the 2 quotes versus 1 quote. It's exactly the same thing. Anything in quotation marks is a string. Even like if I do 8 plus 5, if I write those in quotation marks, it's going to print out 8 plus 5, right? It's not going to print out the sum of them. And similarly enough, if I were to write, hi plus betters, it's going to print out that as like a sum, right? So it literally adds these together when it's string. Whereas this is, if I just don't put it in quotes, it's going to print out the result, right? And if I were to do something like print 8 plus 5, since those are in quotes, it's going to add them as if it's a string. So we're going to get 8, 5 because it's literally taking them as strings and adding them. The same way we have high betters, 8, 5 becomes 8, 5. Whereas if you don't put it in quotes, it becomes the actual number. So those are the difference. Those are the two main data types that we'll be talking about. But basically, those are going to be important because once we get in here, right, the way we're going to start is just by learning how to filter data. So for example, if I want to see only games, or I guess data rows where it's the Arizona Cardinals as the home team, what I would write is DF. So I'm saying look at the entire data frame, and then in that data frame, look at the specific column called team name, and it has to be equals, double equals, and then in quotes, Arizona Cardinals. All right, and if I hit run, it's only going to show me the data records where Arizona Cardinals is the team name. And again, if these have to be in quotes, if I take the quotes out, it's not going to know what that means, and we're going to get an error because it's not read in as a string. And so make sure to put those in quotes when you're doing that to get the right answer. And then similarly, if we want to filter by a number, so maybe we want to see all games where the points scored is more than 25, the points scored by the home team. And again, these are the home team because that's just how it's filtered. The home team is the team name, the opponent is the away name. So if I want to see only games where the score for the team, the home team, is greater than 25, what I would do is I say look at the DF, look at the data frame. Specifically in that data frame, look at the points. And if that is greater than 25, and again, don't put it in quotes, right, because it's a number. If it's greater than 25, let's look at it. So this is going to show me all data points in all data records in the data frame where the points are greater than 25. Right, so you can see every single point here is above 25. So this is how we're filtering data. Similarly, if we wanted to see everything less than that, we can just change that to less than, and again, we'll get these data points where everything is less than 25, if that makes sense. And additionally, if you wanted to, for example, see if you wanted to add multiple, right? So if I want to see, all of the times when the home team is the Cardinals and the points is greater than 25, what I would do is I would say DF in the same way. Look in the entire data frame. The only difference is you want to make sure to put these parentheses. So I would say DF team name equals, and then quotes, Arizona Cardinals. And then I'll go also, and then use this ampersand, and then again parentheses, you go DF points greater than 25, and again not in quotes. And then from there, it's only going to return the one record, right? And if I change this, you can see it also would return less than these. And you can change this, right? So say I wanted to do, instead of the Cardinals, maybe you can look at Packers, and we'll just paste that in there. And you can see this is a good way to filter. And then from here, another fun thing you can do is you can actually store these. So for example, like if I wanted it to just be the Cardinals, I can say, so this is like a Cardinals data frame. Right, so if I take that, this is literally, I'm defining a new data frame called Cardinals that is only the Cardinals. So if I look at Cardinals, right, it's only going to show me those Cardinals values. And then since this is a team name and opponent, and it has only for the home team, what I can also do is the same way I can put these parentheses around this, and I can put this tall line. This essentially means or, and then I can say DF opponent, and then set that also equal to the Cardinals. And then what's going to happen is I'm going to get all the data rows here from the data frame where the team name is the Cardinals or the opponent is the Cardinals, right? So when I do this, I should get all of it, all of their games, so all 5 of them. So it also includes, right, the games where they played as the away team. And then from here, now I have just the Cardinals, right? So if I wanted to make it for the Packers, I can make this say Packers and this say Green Bay Packers. And then from there, just in general, you can start playing around with these numbers. So for example, if I wanted to say, what is the average number of points for the Cardinals, then I would say I would take the Cardinals and I would look at points, and then I would just type mean, which just means average, right? And if I hit enter, it's going to give me 20.6, which means on average for the first 5 games the Cardinals scored 20.6 points. So play around with these. I mean, if you want, you can start looking at, what about, specifically the Ravens, what is their average points. You can look at, this is where you get you can start getting into these stats of if a team scores more than 25 points, how likely are they to win, right? You can start looking at those numbers. I hope this was helpful. And as always, guys, make sure to check out the website. We post all the predictions and results here. If you want to buy the data, it's available. If you want to get early access to the predictions and analytics, it's available on the Patreon. Appreciate you guys, and best of luck with all your bets.